start off with David Brent. Definitely A tier. He's loud, he's obnoxious, he's an asshole. He's like the boss that nobody wants to have. And I think that what I find interesting about the show is that I think that like his personality traits, they're amplified because he's on camera. Like I think that it's a big part of the show, the original Office from BBC, which is where I think that Michael differs, which is why I'm probably putting Michael in like the C tier because and the reason why is because of the way that the characters are designed. I think Michael's designed to be lovable. I don't think that David Brent is. David Brent, you might feel sorry for him here and there, but I think that while they say homophobic, racist, and sexually harassing like things, David Brent gets fired and Michael never does. David he's a tragic like character in that way, but he's also one that you're supposed to like just pity. Whereas like Michael is like kind of like a clueless idiot. He kind of has like the Forrest Gump syndrome going on, where basically like he doesn't realize the negative things that he's doing and like the consequences of them. But the thing is, there is no consequences. He's good at his job. David Brent isn't, and he gets his job done. And the whole point of it is that actually like he's a good manager because he runs the office like it's a family, and family comes first. And that's where I think that the original Office, it's like the friends that you make, it's like in spite of the job that you hate. Whereas I think that with the US Office, it's like about making friends because of the job. And it's the job is like something that is like looked at as like this happy experience all in all. Whereas with the original British Office, it's like it's grueling. It's like soul crushing. And I think that that's like really like literalized with the character of Tim, who I'd also put in A tier. Like he does pranks on Gareth because he needs to kill the time somehow. So like he's always talking to Dawn, he's always talking to Gareth because he wants to like get his mind off of things because he hates his job. Jim doesn't hate his job, and that's another reason why I think that Jim is like C tier at best. Like you like him to some degree, just like you like Michael to some degree. Almost they make Michael almost too likable, and they make like the dynamic between him and Jim. Like Jim ultimately loves his job in the end, and that's not at all the case with Tim, who just wants to like just get on with his life. Jim, on the other hand, like I think that like I don't think that he has the same kind of like charisma that like Martin Freeman has, and this is no like criticism of like any of the actors here because this is just a character tier ranking. But I think that I like what they're doing with like Tim a lot more than what they do with Jim. Dawn, on the other hand, I like her, but I like Pam just about as much. The issue with Pam, I think, is that while we spend a lot more time with her, so her character develops as the show progresses. It does kind of reach a point where after they get married, it kind of like there's a sharp decline in the quality of like the writing, I think, for the character. But we still spend time with her, and you get to know her a little bit more than you get to know Dawn. But ultimately, like the issue that I do have with Pam is that so much of her character is how much she loves Jim. Like she does not really have enough independence on her own to really make her a strong character like what I think that they're trying to go for. Because at the end of the day, like she's going to quit art school because she just wants to be with Jim. And everything revolves around that relationship, and there's not enough, like, she doesn't have enough interiority of her own. And, like, she breaks her wedding off with Roy. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why she does it, but the main reason is Jim. It's all Jim. And that's not at all how it is with Dawn. But at the same time, we spend a lot of time with her, and I like her. I like her as a character. Gareth, on the other hand, I'm not really the biggest fan of him. I think that he's the butt of the joke. I mean, like he's funny, sure, um, but he doesn't exactly. You're not really meant to like him. Also, like he's an irritating presence on screen, and he's meant to be that way. And the reason why I only included like four characters from the BBC office is it's nothing against any of the other side characters, but I just wanted them to be kind of like a baseline to see what we're up against with the US characters. Dwight, on the other hand, I think he's not that great of a character. I think he's a cartoon character. The difference between him and Gareth is that Gareth went to the military and Dwight runs a farm. Like, there's commentary here with Gareth, and like the reason why he's the way that he is. He's stuck in a white collar job after he served in the army. But here, Dwight is just like Dwight is almost like he's an idiot, but also like he's also like the perfect idiot, because like he's successful, he gets the girl, he doesn't make a fool of himself in the same way that Gareth does so often. Whereas I think with Andy I think is a decent character. I don't like him that much. I think that he's an angry narcissist, and he's not like the most likable. But I'd still say that he's about as likable as Michael, and I think it's because his character is like a humiliation ritual. Like all these bad things keep happening to him, and it's for the sake of like comedy. And sure, that's not like the nicest like way to treat him, but I think that like the character kind of like is at his weakest when we're spending time with him, and he's not just a punching bag. David Wallace, I would put A tier. I think he's one of the best characters on The Office. I think that it's fun following him around. He does get a little flanderized like as time goes on, like in the sense that like his character drops off. Maybe it jumps the shark when he is like trying to promote Suck It, and that stops him from being S tier. But like overall, when he plays the straight man to Michael and to everyone else in the office, I think that he does it really well, and I think that like he's an underrated character for that reason. Jan, I'd also put in A tier. I think that she is a very like complex character, and I think that The Office is probably at its best in season 3, and that's when like she really starts shining as a character, like because she loves Michael, or she loves using Michael. She loves what Michael can represent to her, but then at the same time, she also doesn't. So she's complex in that way, but she's also like a narcissist in her own way, and that relationship is toxic. It is predatory. It does make Michael uncomfortable. She is a villain of the series, but also it's like she has independence, and Michael keeps stomping on that independence. Not even like knowing what he's doing is like wrong, but like she does not want that relationship, and then she does want it, but she wants it in her own controlled way, and that's why it's never meant to be the way that either of them want it to be, because they have different ideas for that relationship. And I think that like some of the best relationship dynamics in the show come not from Jim and Pam, but from Jan and Michael. And I think that for that reason, I think that her character stands out like above like her BBC counterpart, because I think that they have more time to develop it. But yeah, I'd put her in A tier. And also another thing that I like is I really like the deposition episode, because that's when like everything kind of comes to perspective, where like she was going to sue Dunder Mifflin, and Michael ultimately like chooses to stand by his company than his own girlfriend, and she loses like the potential for $4 million. And of course she's going to act the way that she does in the dinner party episode, which is probably one of the highlights of this series. Ryan, I'd kind of put in B tier. He'd be an A tier character, but the problem with him is that he basically becomes flanderized as the series goes on, where he kind of becomes a cartoon character. I don't like how like the series ends with him, but when we're following him from the rise and fall of the character, it's really good. I like him quite a bit. It's funny, it's sharp writing, it's good. Charles Minor. I'm gonna put him in C tier, not because of any like problem with him as a character. I think that he plays a straight man very well. But it's just more a matter of like we don't really like get to know him that well, and that's also which is actually why I like excluded like all the other BBC characters, because like you don't really get to know them that well because they're actually doing their job, they're being professional. But the issue with the US office is that we're basically meant to love all these characters because they aren't professional in a way. But that also kind of creates this like unrealistic like dynamic that is not really like the best viewing pleasure for me. D'Angelo, and he's another cartoon character. I put him in D tier. I think that they made a mistake by bringing Will Ferrell onto like the show. I mean, he was never going to replace Steve Carell, and I think that like his presence is kind of not the most like wanted. I feel he doesn't really bring enough to the table. I feel, and that's nothing against like Will Ferrell as an actor. Just that I think that like he doesn't necessarily work the best with this type of comedy. I don't think that's his strongest suit. I believe her name is Jo Bennett, if I'm not mistaken. Kathy Bates plays her. I don't. Yeah, I'd probably put her here just because like I think I get more out of Michael as a character than I do her, and so I think that once they started bringing on celebrity cameos, like the show kind of like faltered a little bit. I really since season 5 onward, that's when the show really gets like not. It probably reaches like a low point. But yeah, I don't really have much to say about her. There's not really much to be said about her, I feel. Robert California, on the other hand, I'm going to put him in A tier. I think that like he brings a presence to the show that Steve Carell didn't have, where like he's mysterious, he's weird. We get to know stuff about him. We get to know even some of his insecurities, but also like we never fully get to know him as a character, and it's in a good way. I think that James Spader brings a lot to the table. I think he's very funny. I think he's the Lizard King, so I'm putting him there. Toby is funny. I'm gonna put him in B tier. He's another punching bag of a joke. Don't really have a whole lot to say about him, but he's a good presence. I think that like when the show starts deviating and creating their own characters or bringing life to characters that didn't previously like have that much development, like I think that the show's at its best when it kind of like starts doing like its own thing. And with characters like Toby, I think that like there's something like good about it. I don't really like the Jim as much, or Michael. Holly, I'm gonna put in D tier. I just find it annoying, honestly. Like the whole dynamic between her and Michael. I mean, it's good that Michael gets a girl, I guess. Despite the fact that he's a misogynist, homophobe, who sexually harasses people, including Oscar, who I also don't like that much. I don't think that he has. I think that once he becomes like the smartass, I think that his character really falters, and that's the issue with a lot of like the side characters, is that they don't really have a lot going on for them. Like once they kind of start having more going on for them, if that makes sense, in a weird way, because they start acting unprofessional, and once they act unprofessional, it's like the realism is gone, and I feel like that's like something that we really feel. Angela, there's like 2 different characters named Angela throughout the series, I swear. Like one from the earlier seasons and one from like the later seasons. The same could be said with Kelly. But I like Angela enough. I'm gonna put her in C tier. Kevin is not a good character. The same problem. He just becomes dumber and dumber as it goes on. Like it's not fun. Stanley, do I have really anything to say about Stanley? Not really. Phyllis, same thing. Meredith, same thing. Creed Creed is not a good character. I'm gonna put him in F tier. Kelly, I'm thinking C tier. Erin, she's cheery, she's nice, but she also has the mind of a 9-year-old. So it's really weird watching Andy or anybody really in a relationship with her. But that's how it is. Todd Packer. I liked the BBC version of him a lot better. He's kind of annoying. He's meant to be annoying. So, like, where should I put him? He does the job well. I guess I'm gonna go with D tier though, because because there is like competition like with like the original series. Hank, I don't have anything against Hank, but like there's not really much of a character there to have, but he does the job well, so I guess C tier. Gabe is good. I'm gonna put Gabe in A tier. Nellie, I don't like. Dwight Jr. and Jem Jr., whatever their names were, Clark and Gable, I think. This guy was good on Girls, but there's not really a whole lot to say there. Same with the other guy. Daryl is good. Like, I like him when he's in the warehouse the best, but I think that he has like this like, I think he's like really well written. And the jokes land. He has a good presence on the screen. I'm gonna put him on B tier. Roy. Okay, so the dynamic between Jim and Pam when it comes to Roy, like, it's better when it's in the BBC series. I think when they're just like repeating what happens in the BBC series, like it's not as good. I think that once like it starts deviating, like and like he gets angry and wants to basically hurt Jem, I think it's good. I think that I like him. He plays the same character in Big Fish, though. I'm gonna put him in C tier. Karen, S tier, for sure. She did nothing wrong. Kathy, not a whole lot of character going on, and that's the problem I have with a lot of the female characters, especially. But I think that it's good that the series like explored the idea, tested like Jim and Pam's relationship like after they got married, because their relationship itself was founded on cheating. So would they cheat on each other? That's the question. But Jim, of course, is like the moral character, but he's also like on camera. And one thing I don't like about the series is that like they're on camera all the time, but it's incidental, and that's so different from the UK office where like the characters are basically what they do. I think it's shaped in part for the camera, and I don't know, like I think that like the whole like cheating arc doesn't work as well as they wanted it to, because like it's on camera, like everyone knows that they're being filmed, and yet like it's not really brought up, and it's not, so it's like, does this really show Jim's morality, or does the camera, it's like they just wanted the show to be cinema verite, like Curb Your Enthusiasm, rather than like a mockumentary, like what it actually is supposed to be, like the BBC series. I don't know, but as far as like her as a character, there's not like a whole lot going on. I don't like how they treat the female characters. Bob Vance Refrigeration, it's just a bad joke. So is Mose. But yes, Karen is the best character of The Office, BBC or NBC. And there's my ranking.